Hello, welcome to another episode of Tigers, blah, 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 with me, Luke Flanagan, and my co-host is Rich Walker. He's here.
Evening.
Evening. Now then. Bit of a different episode today. Obviously, we've got the Fleetwood game on Friday, tomorrow, so we wanted to do a preview of that, but I've just had an arrival in my family, so I'm currently recording with Rich, and on my lap is my newborn son, currently nameless. So I think Rich had a few suggestions as names. I didn't know what they were, Rich.
Yeah, probably none of them any good. But since your eldest is named Theo,
He is.
I was thinking that you should name your new arrival Ian Goodison in full.
Brilliant. That's outstanding.
So then you could call your lads the Reggae Boys.
That is outstanding shout.
I mean, get that one past your missus, but I think it's a solid contender.
I think the chances of us, well, me getting that past my missus is about as much chance as the defences have had against Hull City so far, which we may talk about later.
Yeah, the other suggestion I had, probably a bit of an in-joke, but one of our other mates has a little boy called Austin, so I said that you should name your newborn Vince McMahon.
Oh dear.
Just so
they
they
can have a
mortal enemy.
Yeah, just so they can have a scrap next time there's kids parties. Just
hit each
smash
other
them on
over
a hospital bed,
steel chairs and stuff like that.
Excellent.
It's totally safe for children to do that.
So we all endorse that, and so yeah, as yet undecided. I'm sure me and my missus will decide on a name tomorrow because it's just hectic time at the minute. But I will put those suggestions forward to her.
I'm sure you will. Yeah,
there will be a resounding fuck off. I'm sure. But we will
I'll be able to hear it coming all the way from Garden Village.
One of our mates, Chris Arks, he does a good fuck off, and I'm sure it'd be that sort of thing.
It'd be a similar thing.
Proper from the depths of his soul, fuck off. So yeah, this is just a pre kind of announcement to explain in case you hear anything in the background what that is. Still don't want to deprive you of your weekly episode, and we still want to have a chat about City. So.
Yeah.
So a few announcements, a few mentions before we get started. So we're going to do the good, the bad, and the numbers, as well as preview the game. So we've got big thanks to Danny Johnson and Hull City Ladies, our main sponsors. They had a disappointing result at weekend. They lost to AFC Fylde Women, who seem to be a decent team in their league. They lost 4-2, but gave it a good go, I think. So they've got, I think their next home game is next week. I want to say it's either next week or in a couple of weeks' time. Obviously, they've got the ground share with Hall Road Rangers, so get down and see those when you can. Support the City Ladies team. We've also got Fan Hub, so hashtag Fans First movement. So check out those as well. And there's our Patreons. So we've got Danny Nicol, Ewan Jones, Adam Brown, Alex O'Neill, Rich Fleming, Aaron Bell, and Mike Hassan. And Aaron Bell's the winner this week. So, Aaron, you're going to have to get in touch with me because I don't seem to have you on Twitter, which is fairly confusing for me when I'm searching for all our Patreons and see if I can follow them back and everything. So, yeah, Aaron, give us a shout. There was another country appeared, Rich, on our listeners.
Chad.
No, Chad. It wasn't Chad. It was in United Arab Emirates. So we've got some Dubai listeners.
Oh, okay, Doug.
So that was a nice one as well. So that's all the intros sorted.
Yeah, just to confirm, Hull City Ladies' next home game is on the 18th of October against West Bromwich Albion.
Right. So
they are away this weekend to Burnley.
Yes, I knew they were away this week. I didn't know if it's the week after or week after that. So they got West Bromwich Albion at home in 2 weeks.
Albion, yeah.
2 weeks. So yeah, that might be a trip that we make. Get down there and see if we can support the City Ladies. Obviously, last week we had Alex Robinson on, and he talked about the start of the season so far. So we'll try and get somebody else on from City Ladies. It's good to have their guests on where we can get them. So that should be good. Look forward to that. And I know we was going to get started with the good. And usually I let you go first, and we will stick to that procedure.
Okay.
Your good thing for this week?
My good, and it's not often you would hear me say that this is a good thing, at least in away from football, but the right wing was good this week.
Brilliant. I love that. It's not usually the right wing gets a lot of plaudits from this podcast, but this is an exception.
Well, yeah, you know,
Usually,
we're staunch lefty liberals, aren't we?
Well, I think the bloody whinging liberals,
snowflakes,
bloody snowflakes, them tigers,
spineless snowflake lefty liberals.
Yeah, but
where's our pride?
Indeed. But yeah, the right wing.
Yeah, I just thought, between Josh Emmanuel and Hakeem Adelakun, there wasn't an awful lot not to like about it. Defensively very sound, but then going forward, we really caused Plymouth a number of problems, particularly in the first half.
Oh, we looked outstanding the first half hour or so.
Yeah, we really did. I mean, the front three could have been another good thing, to highlight. Particularly the wingers, the movement was fantastic. But it looks like already in the short time that they've been playing together, as if Adelakun and Emmanuel are developing a good understanding, kind of who goes and who stays, the runs that each of them are making, that to free the other one up.
Yeah, they really do seem to have a good relationship on that right hand side.
Yeah, they do already, and it's nice to think that we've got that. It's kind of like almost looks like a first choice pairing that's come out, very much out of nowhere.
It really was because
pre-season we were all expecting Louis Coyle to be the first choice right back, weren't we?
And
Adelakun wasn't even in the side, so it's like all of a sudden 4 games in, and you've got these two lads really now first names in those positions.
It's really going to be difficult it's great to have competition for places, and obviously Louis Coyle will provide that, but he has just come out of nowhere. I think it's a signing that he's obviously wanted to make for a while, isn't it? And I know
we've been linked for a little while, haven't we?
Even under Adkins, I think we'd said before that he was linked. But I've been really impressed with Adelakun because he's not really played football, has he?
Not for a long time, no.
But
he looks bright. He's a front foot player, isn't he? He wants to take men on, and he looks like he can get himself into goal scoring positions.
If we were in the stadiums, he'd be the sort of player that gets the crowd on the feet. When he runs forward, everybody would be standing up. And
I always think of it as like the Stuart Elliott sound.
Yeah,
which is like all the seats hitting the back of. Like everybody getting up.
Yeah,
definitely that kind of player.
Yeah. Great finish.
He took his goal ever so well.
Great finish.
He really did.
I mean, because I thought originally it was like going to be something he could head, because it was kind of in between, wasn't it? It was a great cross from Lewis Potter, but it bounced up so quickly.
The way he stood that up for him, it was to get himself the space. I think McCann said they've been working on that space in between Plymouth's defenders.
Certainly first half an hour, you could tell they'd worked on what they were going to do. They were so as soon as we got the ball back, we went forward. They were shitting themselves, weren't they?
Mm-hmm.
I know it was a very different second half, but
they got to grips with it a little bit.
They just had a few little tweaks, didn't they? And they played a lot better. I think second half. I think they were on par with Crewe for how organised they then decided to turn into.
Yes. The other thing was the longer in the game that we allowed them to kind of stay in it, it stayed 1-0. We had a number of chances to extend the lead. None of them really all that clear cut, at least in the first 45, 50 minutes or so. Because I know that in the paper and some of the other reports said that we could have been 3 or 4-0 up inside the first half, and I thought that was a little bit of an exaggeration.
I think 2 or 3, maybe.
Yeah,
on another day,
maybe
2.
Yeah, nothing was hugely clear cut. Where you're saying they should have scored that.
It was half chances,
or could have. Yeah, but the longer that was the case, that we were making these, decent chances, not taking them. Any side he's going to gain a little bit of belief from that. Like it's 1-0.
Still in it, lads.
They
Yeah.
Yeah, they started to cause us a few problems, and we were kind of stuck in that kind of like stick or twist type
Yeah.
thing. And they came in, they came on to us a little bit more. They'd probably count themselves unfortunate not to have got an equaliser. They had that decent chance in the second half, didn't they, where Ingram pulled off a couple of great saves, and the ball was pinging around in our penalty area.
It really was. Yeah, well, I think that's a good link into my good, because I was going to talk about the defence, particularly Reece Burke. I thought it was outstanding, and I was absolutely gutted for him, because if he'd have had a cross in the start of the second half, he was there, unmarked. Where did he come from?
God knows. I love Justin Whittle's commentary on that as well. He was heartbroken for it.
He was absolutely good. He was like, square it. Like, Whittle, he should commentate every game with James Fletcher. I love that. I love it.
Do you know, I was going to say, everybody that has done the colour commentary for Tigers TV or iFollow, whatever it is, this season has been really good.
Yeah, they have.
Really entertaining.
I like David Myler as well.
I enjoyed Myler because he gave you an insight. I liked John Parkin because at the same time, at times he was informative, but he was also just entertaining.
Yeah.
Brian Hughes is good, but Justin Whittle, he's got so much personality, and I think he's somebody that we all love. His joke about Ricochet was
mate, I was falling about that. I loved that. That was one of the funniest things I've heard for ages.
Well, you are a dad, 3-time dad. So it was that kind of humour. I know,
that was top-sided Ricochet, and I just laughed out loud. I was like, "That's brilliant!" Oh yeah, we all love Justin Whittle anyway, but endeared himself, if that's possible, even more to the City fans with that commentary. So I'd love to see him back. But yeah, the defence was brilliant. I mean, second half we were under the cosh for a lot of the time. I was impressed with the way Plymouth came at us. They really tried to get back into the game, and you could tell why they hadn't lost until they played us. They played a very weird kind of system where they did have like a back three and the midfield five, and we exploited that, I think, in the first half. But with the little couple of switches around, they didn't really switch anything massively, but they just kind of came into the game a little bit more, and we were on the back foot, and particularly the second half where the defence was just throwing bodies everywhere. I think Josh McGuinness made a block and Reece Burke ended up getting it away. We did look a little bit, I wouldn't say ropey, but we were under the cosh, but we stood up to everything, didn't we? Everything was just defended well. And
we did. It was nice to see us bend but not break.
It's right. We were tested massively, but obviously Ingram at 4 clean sheets in a row, and I just thought Burke, from being as ropey as he was last season,
back end of last season, he really suffered.
I mean, Device was the same. I'm not singling players out. I think that the defence was obviously our Achilles heel, because every time the team kicked off, we looked like conceding from the first minute, and we did for a lot of the time last season. But they've looked so solid. They've clearly worked on what their downfalls were, and the beliefs coming back, and we look solid at the back. Which
Device has said the same thing in his comments today. Ahead of the Fleetwood game, he said that the belief is back. It's so important to start the season the way that we have for that reason, because for the players who left over from last year, had we kind of started shakily or with defeats or
it'd have been
just carried on in a negative.
It's changing that culture, isn't it? The losing culture is very difficult when you're to stop the rot, as they say. It's so difficult, isn't it? But I think actually, if you go back to the Sunderland game, right at the start of the season, that really did us that kind of awful performance first half, came back into it a bit and ended up getting thrown penalties. It was almost like, we can do this, lads. Like, we've kept a clean sheet for once. We've done this. Let's build on it. Yeah. And they seem to have ironed out all the little mistakes we was making against them, and the positional changes. Like, Josh Emmanuel was brilliant from the beginning, wasn't he? I don't think any of the stuff against Sunderland came from his right-hand side. It was very much kind of balls in behind that the centre-halves failed to read, sort of thing. But yeah, Burke has impressed me the way he's improved, and I think a lot of people put him as man of the match on Saturday. I don't particularly think, I think it was very difficult to pick a man of the match, to be honest. But I did.
I'd have gone with the goal scorer. I think. Just he's made the moment, or he's finished the moment that decided the match.
Yeah. I mean,
but harsh. It's hard to pick anyone. Like you say, it was another day where everybody was at kind of 7s and 8s.
That's it. Instead of 3s and 4s like we were seeing again last season, everyone's been sort of solid.
But we were also seeing 7s and 8s.
Yeah.
Just in a different sense.
That's true. Very true. But yeah, it's just a good time to be a City fan at the minute, looking solid at the back and looking like we do have goals in us.
Yeah, it's interesting you should refer to that Sunderland game, because I think when they won it on penalties, and I think a lot of people were kind of quick to dismiss it, saying
it's only penalties or whatever.
Yeah, only penalties, and we'd done well to hang on and ride our luck in that game to even get as far as penalties. People are kind of looking at it as saying, same old City, they haven't won the game, it's only on penalties. But I don't think, now that the first month of the season has gone the way that it has, you can't really underestimate the impact that would have had on the squad and the building block that has been for this decent start.
I had a real issue choosing a negative. Do you have one? I know we do the good, yes, the good, the bad, and the number, but it was harder to choose the bad for once. So.
Yeah, just let me remind myself, because it's like you say, it was difficult. Oh no, I don't think I did have one.
I mean, I was. What I was put was just that it was the lack of killer instinct, because I think we could have had 2 in the first half, and I think if we go in 2 up, I think it is a different game and we kind of control it, but we've kind of let Plymouth get back into it, and like you said before, the belief was there that they could. It's only 1 goal, lads. We could still do it, sort of thing.
Yeah,
that was the only kind of criticism.
I think that is the obvious negative about the game.
I mean, there wasn't a long list of negatives that I was struggling to pick from. It was that I was struggling to think, well, I really don't want to be criticising stuff just for the sake of it. But that was one of the things I thought, that if we just sharpened up just that little bit more, it would have made the game a lot more comfortable.
Yeah, and I don't think saying that is being harsh or unfair on the team, because it's something that they've clearly identified. I mean, McCann said it today in his press conference that they've been working all week on sharpening up in attacking areas and finishing. Whether that's something that you can kind of coach into a team over a week, or we might find it improves over the course of the season. It might be a case of players still kind of getting their legs underneath them, with a truncated pre-season, what have you. It might be something that we improve on anyway.
I do think it would have been been interesting if Wilkes was fit and had played through the middle.
Yeah, because there was a chance. I think it was a Delican from the edge of the area, or perhaps Lewis Potter actually shot from the edge of the area, and McGuinness didn't follow it.
No, he didn't. It was just too slow to read it, weren't he?
Yeah, maybe somebody with a more predatory instinct would have followed.
I just think that Wilkes has got that extra bit of pace than McGuinness for that. It's just that killer instinct, just running in and following it in. I don't think it's not a criticism of McGuinness by any stretch.
Yeah. So with Wilkes and McGuinness, were you to compare the two, Wilkes' movement would probably be more towards the opposition goal. I think he's more of kind of that front foot getting behind defenders, whereas McGuinness would maybe come off defenders and drop in towards our goal. Not, he's not doing the defensive job, but he's coming back to create space to then make sure that
others can use that space. That if he's just pulled the defender away, Delican had run in behind for him. I understand what you mean by that. I think that's.
And it's one of those. It's allowed George Honeyman, to have his. He's played a part in his good start. So it's one of those things, isn't it? In that particular instance, it didn't look great, but it has allowed us to play as a side, and it's freed other players up. But obviously the preference would be to have Wilkes in
Absolutely.
there for the tackling, wouldn't
But
it?
hopefully, I mean, they did say that he may be fit for tomorrow, and that was obviously something that we'll talk about.
I think he will be.
We'll talk about in the
They
Fleetwood
said he's trained all week.
preview bit. But yeah, fingers crossed. I think. We don't have McGuinness.
Well, either way, we don't have McGuinness.
Well, Eves has taken the knockback, hasn't he? So it must be Wilkes, or else he's going to have to play Lewis Potter or Adelican through the middle and switch it up a little bit. So if we're going to do the number, your number is
91.
91. And that equates to?
The number of teams in the Premier League and the Football League have conceded goals. Because we're not one of them.
No, we are not. We are the only one left.
Yeah.
After Villa resoundingly thumped Liverpool. Very funny.
What was that about?
That was very funny.
Oh, dear.
I've never really been that much of a Villa kind of fan. I mean, obviously I'm a City fan, so I don't like any of it. There's always other teams that you don't kind of dislike quite as much as others, I think.
I don't know. I hate them all.
Well, I think there's always teams where if you go, oh, well, those two are playing, I'd rather this team win. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, okay.
But
the lesser of two evils.
The lesser of two evils, yeah. I've never really been, that bothered about Villa. And I like Villa Park's a good ground to go to, I think, but I've never been particularly fan of them. But it really did.
I don't like the away end at Villa Park, and I think as a home crowd they're quite annoying.
Yeah.
But you will find home crowds annoying when you're getting beaten.
Yeah,
when you go there.
We do usually go there. I think last time though we drew 1-1 with Bowen scoring, didn't we?
Yeah.
Was that? That was
under. That was under Slutsky.
That was under Slutsky, wasn't it?
There was another one, but the result is evading me at the
moment. But yeah, they didn't concede until that game, the Liverpool game. They were the only ones left, weren't they?
Yeah, and obviously they conceded in some style.
They did concede in some style. But yeah, it's an odd one, this, isn't it? The only team in all of the 92 teams in the Football League not to concede a goal yet. And it just seemed a fitting time to talk about it, because it could be very much that Fleet would score after 2 minutes tomorrow. But
we are on. I've got this. City fans of our vintage.
Yeah.
I don't enjoy seeing us on Sky.
No,
Even
I don't.
though we've been in the Premier League and we've had a lot of games on live television now, domestically at least. It's like, especially on a Friday night, they give me the heebie-jeebies appropriately for October.
Really?
So it reminds me of, like, even though we won it, the game against Sheff Wednesday in 2006. When John Parkin scored 2.
Yeah.
And it just started like it was so typical City, like Dion Burton absolutely conning his way into that penalty, like the ball hit his own hand, and then they get a penalty out of it. It's just like
absolute war cry of a decision.
Yeah, the Friday night on Sky, it was just like it's that kind of feeling that I have when I think of City on TV on a Friday night. I know that's a very specific thing.
Yeah, I mean, the last time we were on Sky, last season, we beat Middlesbrough, so
that is true. That is true.
It's a fairly decent omen, but I mean, that was one of the worst games I think I've ever watched where we won. Still, the only bit of quality was the Herbie Kane free kick, and then Wilkes. It was Device's little nod down that was very Barnby-esque, where he just then let Wilkes smash it in. But I'd be open for Wilkes to be back into that central kind of position and keep that run going, because we have looked decent. I don't know. We've played 3 of the 4 promoted teams, but I don't think none of them will be mugs. I don't think any of them will be ones that are just languishing at the bottom of the league at all. Do you?
No,
I mean, I think Northampton play the worst football.
Test.
Yeah, Northampton play the worst football of the promoted teams because it is just so direct and so predictable.
apparently Keith Curle was up in arms about us conning the referees. What was it he said? He felt
Oh, I saw
cheated or
that.
something.
Well,
Give over, Keith.
he's just a fucking idiot, isn't he? Really.
Well, I mean, he's been in the game long enough to know that sometimes that's how it goes.
I mean, he's all right doing it the other way to get his way up the leagues, because apparently
Yeah,
all that Northampton did was shithouse their way up to a promotion, which is fair enough. You can't take that away from them, but
I mean,
to
I
then be
didn't.
played at their own game by us slowing the game down, and I think the referee was awful for both sides that game. I don't think he was conned at all.
I didn't see it that
I
way
think there were very
at
baffling
all.
decisions for both sides, to be honest.
Yeah, yeah, I'd agree with that.
And you can't say, he goes, oh, well, they shouldn't have had that free kick. There's 4 passes. After that, you can't just go, well, he gave a free kick for their second goal that they shouldn't have had. Defend it.
Exactly.
You fucking moron. Defend it.
That's the thing that I'm always big on. And I remember saying it like when we played together on Sundays, because you used to love and moan about a referee.
I still do love and moan about a referee.
Oh, yeah, I know. But it's like the thing that I always said was control the controllables. It's like you have no ability to control what the referee is going to do in the game. What you can control is how you defend situations. So, like,
yes, if it was a free kick that should never have been, you can't just moan and say it shouldn't have been given, because then you just get back in position and defend it.
Yeah, regroup, defend it. But the fact that we took that quick free kick and didn't allow them to do that, that's not like, you don't say, well, we were conned. It's like, well, credit to Hull.
At least. I mean, there was 1, 2, 3 passes, then the Delican puts it through. And you've still got it, you didn't get close to any of them, because it was 1-2, Elder and Doherty won it.
Yeah.
And then in came a Delican with the ball through. And you've all that space through the midfield you've played through, and they've not laid a finger on anybody.
He's maybe just trying to keep his,
I mean, you would defend your players. You would defend your players, obviously.
Yeah.
The manager who throws them under the bus saying we were shit because we didn't defend it. The players are not going to thank him for that. But
it seems like it's something that people are enjoying doing, anyways. Throwing City a bit of shade this season.
The people love it.
Keith Curle, Karen Brady. Anybody else?
I think Ryan Lowe's was a little bit. He wasn't as negative as Curle was, but he definitely said, I don't think they should have won. And I do think
he's got an argument for that.
Their second half they were much better, weren't they? I don't really have an issue with him saying that, but they did. I think each time I think we've got under people's skin this season. City. I don't think people like it because they expected us to just tumble down the league again, I think.
Possibly. And we've also played 3 teams that are used to winning, so
that's true.
They're
not
if they've been promoted to it, are they?
I will say, I mean, I know we're not one for predictions, but I think one of the toughest games we'll play this season is Swindon. I know they got beat by Peterborough, but I think they'll be dark horses for promotion this year. I think they've got some very good players. They took a lot of players on loan. I think they've got 3 players called Smith on loan from different clubs. One of them's from Arsenal, one of them's from Man United, and there's another guy that they've signed. But I think they'll be quite good this season. I think they'll finish the highest of all the promoted teams. I don't think they'll play necessarily the most sort of through the thirds football like Crewe do. But I think that they know how to win games really well. They're doing all right so far. They've only lost once, I think. And obviously Lincoln are going to be the other ones where we need to...
God, yeah.
That's going to be tough. That's going to be a massive game if both sides continue the form that they're in, isn't it? Next, when we play them. Yeah. I hate Sincilbank.
I don't like Lincoln City whatsoever.
I remember. Do you remember Laurie Dudfield's story about going on loan to Lincoln? That was a great one, wasn't it? It was just lump it to the corners. But but yeah, if we're talking about numbers still,
we've digressed a long way from 91. But
91 was yours. 95 was mine, and
okay, both in the 90s.
Both in the 90s.
Yours about, then?
Mine's about the best start to the season since 95 years ago, which is 1925-26 season, where we've had the best start in the league since then. So it's
I remember that season well.
It's 9. I mean, I know nothing really about other than what I've looked at, for players and stuff. Never really heard of any of those because it is so long ago. But it shows how far this City squad's come that we're breaking records that are nearly 100 years old with the start that we're having.
Who'd have thought that?
And I just think a lot of credit has to go to behind the scenes staff as well as McCann, for the recruitment and getting players for the positions that were needed.
So much depth as well that they've done really well.
I mean, I would love us to have had those two right backs last season. To have Coyle and Emmanuel, because I think we'd have probably been all right.
Even one of them behind Lehigh.
Because Lehigh was such a big miss when he went, but they've recruited so well.
I think that should be something we do when the transfer window closes for the Football League. Is kind of look at City's transfer window. I know the Hull Daily Mail's already done it.
Yeah.
In line with the Premier League transfer window. But
you can. There is a couple of weeks for loans, isn't there? So it's not kind of out of the question that we wouldn't get anybody else in.
So I think that we should talk about that in future date.
Yeah, I think that'd be a good chat. Because
and then we've seen some of the players a little bit more as well.
That's it. Yeah, so we haven't really seen informed. Like Regan Slater. We haven't seen apart from 10 minutes against Plymouth and
an excellent interview.
But yeah, I do think that a lot of credit's got to go to those behind the club, behind the scenes in the club, because I just think that we so easily could have just done a Portsmouth, not recruited well, and 3 or 4 first games we could have just tumbled down the league to the bottom, and it really would have been looking grim.
I mean, we'll see. We'll see. It's early days yet, isn't it? McCann could win Manager of the Month tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean that's what you do. That's what you don't want. I hope is the Lincoln guy up for it as well, Lincoln manager. So I hope he gets it because they're top, and the focus isn't on us really.
I think the thing is whether or not McCann wins it, it's the law of averages, isn't it? It's not the fact that you will Manager of the Month. It's just the law of averages dictate that you will get beat at some point.
Exactly.
The longer a good run goes on as well, the greater the chance that he's going to come to an end.
That's it. I mean, the only 2 teams that I know of when I've looked at it that went the whole season undefeated was obviously the Arsenal Invincibles. But that was only, obviously, in the league they were undefeated. An awful lot of draws in there when I was looking up. I think it was something like 14 draws or something, where they were just playing for 0-0s at the end of the season because they knew teams were going to go out. The other one was Preston North End in the 1880s. They went the whole season undefeated, and they were called the Invincibles for a while until they then lost loads every other season, and then they went back to their original nickname of the Lily Whites, which I thought was quite funny. But yeah, Preston and Arsenal are the only ones that ever done that. I know it's early to be talking about all that sort of rubbish, but it's nice to be in that position as a City fan, because it's not something that we've experienced in a long time, such a good start like that. So
just remember, it's the hope that kills you.
It really is, isn't it? Yeah.
That's a lovely goal, by the way, just watching England and Wales. That's
it was a lovely goal. Connor Cody getting on the end of that. But yeah, I mean, if we look forward to the Fleetwood game, it's going to be an interesting one, isn't it? Because Joey Barton's a massive bastard. A massive shithouse bastard.
A massive bastard.
Tell me changed my mind.
Well, I'm not going to.
You've seen that meme, haven't you? Have you seen the meme? Changed my mind. Yeah. So Joey Barton's a shithouse bastard. Changed my mind. Needs to be done for the episode, I think. That.
Let's hope there's no smoking in the Fleetwood Stadium tomorrow. What is it? It's Highbury, isn't it, Fleetwood?
Yeah, it is, yeah.
Bizarrely.
He's always got that kind of edge and temper on the sidelines, hasn't he? I think if it's a close kind of... I expect a physical battle tomorrow with it being a Joey Barton side.
I'm looking forward to watching the game, actually. I think with them been up the top of
they did well last season. Year. They did do well last season.
Paddy Madden's one that I'm looking forward to watching. 19 goals he scored last year.
Yeah, in a season that was cut short as well. It's impressive.
Yeah, it's impressive. I'm looking forward to seeing him. Hopefully he'll have a quiet game.
Yeah, hopefully.
Or quieter than he might usually have. But
get marked out the game, hopefully. But yeah, they kind of... they never really recaptured the form they had before this shutdown, because they did get in the playoffs and then they absolutely bottled it, didn't they? I remember Coyle, in fact, getting sent off in the second leg of the playoff for at the time I said not wrong with that, but then I watched it and he nearly took his leg off. It was a horror challenge after half an hour to give a penalty away. He's just 2-footed him basically in the area. So that'll be it'd be interesting to see if he does start with Coyle tomorrow and gives Emmanuel a rest.
I don't think he will.
But I don't think he will either. But I think there's always that little temptation when you got a point to make.
Not when it's doing as well as it is. You don't.
No, I suppose. I don't. Like I said, I don't see him doing it. But it's just that little added edge, isn't it? Where you've got an ex-player very recently left. You know, he was the player of the season last year.
If anything, that would make me less inclined to do it.
You think he'd be more of a target?
Possibly, and there's emotion in it. For Coyle, not I doubt that he would, being a professional, get caught up in it the same way, particularly without a crowd there. But that would definitely enter my thinking. If I was in McCann's shoes, I just wouldn't be inclined to change up a back four that's done as well as it has, and then, as we said at the start of the show, with Emmanuel and Adelakun looking like they're developing and understanding together, I wouldn't want to break that up either.
No. It does look
it's an interesting story, isn't it? It's something that other people can talk about, but having seen what we've seen out of the team, I just don't think it would be a sensible thing to do.
No. I think Smallwood's not going to be risked, is he?
No, apparently not.
So you'd think that Honeyman continues as captain, which I'm a fan of. I like Honeyman a lot this season. I think he's really improved his game.
Well, he's fully deserved his nomination for Player of the Month.
Oh, massively.
In my opinion.
I mean, he never stops, but he plays that role of the number 10 so well now.
He's definitely finding space.
Honey Esther. Because that was good chant for Quinny Esther, that, wasn't it, when we had Stephen Quinn? So that should make a reappearance if we ever get to go back into grounds. But yeah, he obviously will continue as captain. It looks to me as though Wilkes is going to be through the middle with Lewis Potter and Adelakun either side. Do you reckon?
Yeah, it sounds that way. We don't have an awful lot of options otherwise.
No, because
the one that's interesting for me, and it's possibly the only real decision that McCann will have to make, is who plays the holding role in midfield.
I think he might go Alfie Jones, to be honest.
Yeah, well, that would be the one that I would find interesting. Like I say, Dan Batty did absolutely nothing wrong Saturday.
No, I thought he did well, and he's improved his game a little bit, because I do think sometimes he has a rush of blood to the head and he just tries the 50-yard ping and it doesn't often come off.
That's what I was going to say. He's got that range.
It's knowing when to use it.
I'm not going to compare him to Steven Gerrard, but
I am kind of.
I'm going to use Gerrard as a reference in that often in his career, when he was starting out, he would do the same thing where his pass selection wasn't necessarily the best, and he continued that trend as he played for England all the way up until the day he played his last game for England. Was that oftentimes he would, because he had that range and that ability, look to move it too much too soon.
Yeah, always looking forward to get it pinged. And sometimes there's nothing wrong with a sideways ball, is there?
Well, or even just a short one, 5 yards in front as opposed to a percentage ball 50 yards ahead. I do like that about Batty's game, and that's something that I think is a positive, and it's something that he has over other midfielders in our squad, is that he's got that ability to do that.
It's just put us on the front foot straight away, isn't it? Put us on the front foot quicker, yeah.
Yeah, but his pass selection needs to be better. So great, you've got that, but know when to use it rather than using it all the time when it's not necessarily the right thing to do.
I think it's like horses for courses, isn't it? You choose the players that you think you're going to need each time, and I think, but like Batty did nothing wrong at all at the weekend. I thought he played well, but I do think he'll go with Jones. I think just that sort of physical presence in there
It sounds like he's expecting that kind of game, isn't it? And
I think,
he's highlighted the fact
yeah,
it's going to be, on a night by the
I I
coast and
don't think
swirling wind and what have
I
you.
don't think it's necessarily going to be Northampton Mark II, but I think there will be a more direct and physical element to the game. And I tell you what, Wales are not doing themselves any favours at the minute. They're just scything down players every time they go by the ball. So
How they've fallen ever since Euro
that's
2016.
it. It's great to see them, return to their rightful place, isn't it?
Yeah, I do enjoy it. Got a
Oh,
little
that
bit
was
carried away.
nasty, that as well. Just seeing that challenge. It's raked down the back of his ankle. There's some right challenges going in. It's a nice warm-up for tomorrow, because I think there will be, like you said, on the coast. I think there's going to be some absolute stonking challenges in, and Barton will be geeing him up from the sideline. He obviously did quite well last year with them.
Finished sixth,
But
didn't
yeah, so he's no mug. I mean, he's a very disliked man, I think, for obvious reasons. But I think he's got he's got a football brain. He speaks well. He's an intelligent guy.
I think he's what's the word? Enigmatic.
Yes, I do think he. I think he's got a better understanding of the game than I think some people give him credit for, just because he's so outspoken.
I mean, he has to, doesn't he? He has to.
Yeah, I've heard. I mean, I think I kind of hate myself for it sometimes. I listen to TalkSport, and I know
why?
I know I shouldn't. It's only certain times of the day. It's usually when I'm driving, when I know that somebody's on or whatever else.
I think I'd rather box my own balls than listen to TalkSport.
Sometimes when he's been on as guests occasionally, like over not now it's Fleetwood manager, but over the time.
But you're going to say Fleetwood Mac.
Fleetwood Mac.
He can go his own way.
He can. When he has talked on there, he kind of impresses me with what he says. But then I know there were altercations last year where I think didn't he nut somebody in the tunnel?
I don't know.
I think there was an issue where he was disciplined and had a touchline ban.
Yeah, I vaguely remember that now.
And I think he headbutted at another manager or an opposing player. So he's always got that in his locker. It's that sort of unpredictability. But yeah, it'll be the first, I think, massive test for us tomorrow. It's going to be harsh conditions, difficult place to go is Fleetwood, in it. And then any team that Joey Barton's got his shape on, I think he's a tough proposition to break down. So I don't know if I haven't really seen on social media any City fans saying, this is easy or whatever else yet. Because often you get complacent, don't you, when things like this has happened.
Of course, yeah.
But I haven't really seen anybody kind of saying, Fleetwood will roll over for us, because I really don't think that'll be the case tomorrow.
No, I mean, it's, other than Gillingham, its first established side will play at this level, but I would expect them to be a different proposition. At least, I'm not even confident in saying how I think they'll play, because, like most teams this season, there will be a new prospect for most of us. So whether or not they'll play in the same industrial style that Gillingham will, I don't know, but I do think that they will have more about them. I think
there'd be a reason that they were above Gillingham in the table and got to the playoff semi-finals.
Yeah. I mean, the difference might be Paddy Madden.
Possibly.
If you have a striker that scores 19 goals for you, then that will do an awful lot to elevate you above.
It is so difficult to get that striker who scores nearly 20 goals a season, because God knows we haven't had one. We've had Jared Bowen, but he wasn't really a striker, was he?
No.
It's very
forward.
Yeah, he's just a forward. But I mean, again, playing in that front three, they're so changeable. But I think McCann's kind of brought that back with what he's got now. I think, the fluid front three, each of them can play different positions within that. Wilkes can go out on the left or the right, but actually he's better through the middle currently.
And I've been really impressed with Lewis Potter.
But Lewis Potter's been
able
great
to come in from wide positions. There was one, I think it might have been the effort where McGuinness should have followed it in.
Yes.
On Saturday, and the way that he came inside and then took the shot on
It was
I
a
said
bit
to my uncle who was
Jared
watching the
Bowen,
game,
wasn't it?
yeah, exactly. It was Bowen-esque. It's a lot of pressure to put on his shoulders, to say that was Bowen-esque,
Mm.
like be the next academy graduate to rip up trees. But it really was
I think
impressive.
I think if anyone's guilty of saying that Lewis Potter's brilliant, I fall very guilty into that because I've always kind of championed him.
You've always championed young strikers. I remember you even got raving about Mark Cullen.
Yeah, well, obviously, sometimes my sight is not as good as it could be. I'm not accurate about everything, but at the time,
Luke Flanagan's lock of the week, Mark Cullen.
Yeah, at the time, though, mate, you look back at his record for the 23s, and I know it depends on the opposition you're playing, but he was bagging like 30 goals in that season.
He's still made a good career for himself. He's still playing, so
he's
he
still in
obviously had something
League
about him.
League Two, I think, isn't he? And he scored on his full City debut as well. He scored away at Wigan.
Yeah, I was there. I remember it well because of Ian Dowie trying to wax lyrical about some of the players for the next season. And one of the things
Will
that he
Atkinson,
said,
wasn't it?
Will Atkinson in his wiriness didn't have a good thing to say about Will Atkinson other than the fact that he was skinny.
But he also scored, Atkinson, didn't he? So
yeah, he did. Yeah.
It was an odd team selection that nearly paid off because I think we conceded in the 93rd minute or something.
It was late on. Yeah.
Yeah. It was already relegated then. I thought, wasn't we?
Yeah.
But it would have been nice to finish with a win. But we put that last game we played in that amazing blue City shirt that I still like.
Was it?
Yeah.
Did we play in blue away at Wigan?
We played in blue away at Wigan. Sure, we did. Sure, we did.
I don't remember that. I remember. I was there. I was at the game.
I remember having the conversation because he's one of our Patreons, is Mike Hassan, but I was watching the game with him, and I remember saying about, this may be the game we actually win in this shirt. So unless I'm confusing it with something else, Mike's probably got a better memory than I have.
Well, if you are right, you've got a better memory than I do. I was
there. But yeah, I'm sure I remember seeing Will Atkinson particularly celebrating, and it's in that like sky blue City shirt, not sky blue, like deep blue City shirt. It was the first episode we did, we talked about our favourite home and away shirts, didn't we? And that was my away one. But I do think I'm a bit nervous for tomorrow. Like we said, with all the stuff on Sky and Friday night game. I don't like it when we're the Friday night game because it puts more pressure on us in that respect, and then we don't have a Saturday where we can watch City.
Yeah, I think that is perhaps the kind of the City fans' response, but to look at it the other way, it also gives you that chance to put your marker down ahead of everybody.
Well, yeah,
else
you would
over
go if we win, we'd go up to first at least for a little bit, don't we?
Yeah, and that's the kind of pressure that we want to be playing with. If our squad are serious about doing something this season, then they need to be looking at it as though we've got the opportunity to put a marker down. Never mind what might happen, what everyone else might do.
Yeah,
let's worry about us.
That's it. Yeah.
But like you, I'm expecting a difficult game. I'm not particularly one for predictions, but I think there's reason to think it'll be the sternest test of the season anyway.
I don't think it'll be a high-scoring game in particular either.
Well, I hope not. We want that record.
I know we do want that record, but I just, we've scored 6 goals in the league, haven't we? In 4 games, and conceded none. So obviously, we could do with scoring a couple more goals. It's always like it's not quite won a game; it's just over, isn't it? But
there have been games where we have looked likely to score more.
I think particularly the Leeds game, we looked like scoring 4 or 5. We just didn't take the chances.
We've also played more away games than we have home games.
That's certainly true. And you do play a different style of football. Well, McCann is starting to play a different style of football, and he kind of chooses the tactics to suit the game rather than just going flat 4-3-3. He's developed, hasn't he? He's changed the way he does things a little bit, in my eyes. He has to have done, otherwise we wouldn't have had the results that we've had so far.
Yeah, I don't want to make sweeping statements so early into the season, but it has been better so far.
I'm still not completely like convinced by everything, but I do think it's a massive step in the right direction so far.
Yeah, let's. I just want to see. I don't know, maybe another 6 games or so. And
first 10 games is always a good marker, isn't it, as to what to expect?
Just have a better feel. Particularly with this being recorded, I'd hate to say that everything had changed and everything was brilliant, and then somebody's like, well, you said.
No, I know. I get that completely, but you can only go on what we've done so far. And
oh, yeah, it's definitely better. 100%.
I think just to see positivity on a Twitter timeline about City is mad.
Well, I've taken a break from it, so I've not seen anything.
Yeah. So, well, we do live in hope for the City game tomorrow. And then I think the next game after that, so it's Fleetwood this week, and then after that, Rochdale away. Yeah, that'll be a different proposition altogether as well. I think they've actually strung some wins together.
McCann keeps saying it, doesn't he? Every game is different.
It really is, though, in this league.
Yeah, it seems to be. Last year, looking ahead to Rochdale, they weren't great.
No, they weren't.
Season.
They were, but their budget is very, very small compared to ours in particular. So, I mean, then again, Barnsley's were last year and they stayed up. So, it just kind of depends, I suppose. The next home game that we've got, I think, is it AFC Wimbledon on the Tuesday?
It is, yeah.
And then after that, it's I did look
Peterborough.
Peterborough, that's right. So I think Peterborough that'll be a massive test as well, won't it? They play good football. They're always up there, aren't they?
It's a difficult month, Bristol Rovers and Swindon to see it out.
That's a big trip away as well, Bristol Rovers, isn't it?
Yeah.
I did notice when I looked at the kind of map of the country as to where each of the teams are. There's a lot of distance covered by the away games, isn't there? I know we've got Lincoln and Doncaster nearby, and I think that's kind of it, really.
Yeah, we're all over the place otherwise.
Yeah. So, we do live in hope, though, don't we? Thoughts of the Tigers and all that.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. Looking forward to it.
Hopefully we have another good...
No reason not to look forward to it, given the start that we've had. And it's nice to look forward to games rather than thinking, oh, Jesus Christ, what are we going to see today? It's like... it's what are we going to see today?
The only other positive I would say is that if Lee Hendry is still commentating on Sky, I want him out. I want Whittle in. Make that suggestion.
Yeah, let's have Lee Hendry and Justin Whittle go toe to toe in an elbowing competition, and I don't know, put Alan Shearer's face on a punch bag or something like that, and see who can elbow it.
Beautiful idea. Well, that's something straight out of an Alan Partridge suggestion, I think.
Accidental
Partridge, but it's definitely one that I'd watch.
I mean, it was so good the first time round that I was watching a Grimsby game to see it. So.
Yeah. Great stuff. So until next week, I think we've got everything covered that we was going to cover today. And we'll hopefully return with another positive podcast next week. Thoughts of Tigers.
Thoughts of Tigers. Signing off like that every week, Aaron.
That's it. Yeah, it does work. It's never change a winning formula.
Yeah, so don't start Louis Coyle.
Yeah. Don't do it. Manuel all the way. See you next week.
See you.